Welcome to my channel and welcome to my website. My name is Daryl and this is Programming in Any Language. The website is www.blackdesktop.com. It's where you'll find all my videos organized in logical order. Well, even before college, I started in the computer industry as a computer operator. And this was back in the 80-column card days. Most applications that we ran at that time required that the cards be in some sort of order. For payroll applications, it might have been by ID number. For accounts payable applications, it might have been by vendor name. For tractor assembly operations, it might have been by part number. In any event, these cards, or records if you will, required sorting. Advantage to me, I could physically touch these cards and see how they were put in order. Disadvantage to me, it sometimes took hours to physically sort these cards before they entered the computer, and I do mean hours. Today, our records are entered into a machine without the pre-processing. Typically, they're read into an array of sorts. Disadvantage to you, sorting records is pretty much a task that takes place and all we see are the results. It's invisible. It can be a difficult task to visualize when you can't see what's happening. Well, we can simulate the process so you can see it. If you look at the process behind me, we have the simulation of a 20-element array. In the array, we have 7 names stored in the first 7 elements. For our sorting purposes, we can use 7 as the max number of records we will sort. To sort these records, we establish a pointer at the first element in the array, element 0. And our pointer will be an integer variable named x. We also establish a second pointer called x, as 2 is an integer variable. It initially points to the first element following the x pointer. Initially, this would be element 1. So we've got x pointing at 0, y pointing at 1. Starting at these 2 positions, the y element is compared to the x element. If the y element is less than the x element, the 2 values are swapped. If the y element is not less than the x element, we increase the y pointer to the next element and perform the x and y comparison again. This just goes on and on. If no value is found less than element 0 after the y's first pass through the array, we then increment x by 1 and set y up at the first element following x. For this second pass, for example, x would be pointing at element 1, and y would be pointing at element 2. The process continues. We compare element 1 and 2. If there's a less than, we swap it out. Now, when a swap is required, the value of the x element is placed in a temporary holding area, a temporary variable. The y element is then placed in the x element. It's actually moved up into that area. Once that's done, the value in the temp variable is placed in the y element, and y continues through the rest of the array. Long story short, x travels through the array once. Y travels through the array once for every time x moves 1 position. The distance, however, is decreased by 1 for every pass it makes. Really helps to get a visual on this. When complete, the array is in alphabetical order or numerical order depending on the data type of the array. Seeing it played out behind me helps. But setting up this process requires looking at this via a flowchart or even via pseudocode. The following video will go through all this and show you how to set it up in your program. Take a look. Okay, we're going to take a look at sorting an array. This is a very necessary feature that we need to do for searching, for example. We saw the selection search before, where we can enter a name and go through a list in an array and find the match on it. But it's not very efficient when you're looking for multiple things. It's better to have the array sorted in an alphabetical order, either reverse or forward, whatever, and then be able to search. And you'll see that in another technique we're going to do in the future, in the near future, where we're going to do a selection search, where we can find things in 7 passes instead of going through it. Even if there's 1,000 records out there, we'll find them very quickly. So what we need to do, we need to always make sure the array is sorted first. So you bring in files from a disk, or we type them in or whatever. It's always nice to have them in that order, and the sort procedures are fairly straightforward and can do that very quickly. We're going to look at something called the selection sort or the bubble sort. It's got a variety of names, and it works out pretty well. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but it works out pretty good from the standpoint of being able to actually do the processing. You're going to see the thing in action shortly. As you can see on the screen, the selection sort works by locating the smallest value and moving it to element 0. In other words, the entire array, look for the lowest guy, put him up on top. Once you got that done, then you look for the next smallest element and move it to the element 1. And then keep on repeating that process over and over again. You use that by really using 2 pointers and a little bucket to make a switch. And that switch might look like something like this, where we have a small routine right in here where we actually have an integer A and integer B for sorting numbers, for example. And we would put, if we want to swap A and B out, we would put it into a temporary variable, whatever the contents of A is. We would then take A and put B into it. And we take B and move the temp variable back into it. So you've got 3 things going on. You got 2 hands, one's holding one thing, one's holding the other. Really, you got to put something down, grab it, or flop it over, put it up, and then grab it, switch it around. So you get things in proper order. So you're basically doing it that way. You'll see this in action, where it'll make more sense as we do this. You can see a little abstract right now. This is the algorithm for storing the flowchart piece on this thing. And you can see where we're setting an x value to -1. That's one of our pointers in the array. And we're also setting the array to the max length of the array. This might be necessary if you're going to sort the entire array. If you don't have a full array and you just want to sort the elements that are in it, you need to find out where the last value is. That's the example we're going to be working with today. But looking at the length of the array is a good one right now because you can see the entire array is there and then fill it. You increment x by adding 1 to it. That makes it 0. So it's looking at the first element. And you then check to see if it's at max. If it's at max, you're done. But if you're not at max, you then look at another value called y. And you set that up to look at the next pointer, 1 after x. And so you're looking at element 1, at element 0 and element 1, and you're seeing if one is less than the other. And if it is, you're going to swap them out by using a temp value. And then y begins to truck down through the array, always comparing the next values with the element 0. And if it finds any in that are lower than what's in 0, it'll swap them out. But finally, when you've got it done, y has gone through the entire list, we know x has the lowest value. So we bump x up to the next value and then set y up right underneath it. And you go through that same process again. That's what this flow chart is showing us right here. You might want to see it here's the swapping piece right here. This is the full sort array variable. It looks different. If you look at the flowcharts, you can follow this thing one step at a time and kind of piece it out in your brain and make it all work. When you start to apply it to code, it's not all that complicated. It's not all that confusing if you look at it. It's kind of simple. It's kind of straightforward. You've got a holding variable right here, and then you set your integer of x up to 0. And you make sure it's not greater than a count of some kind. There's that count. It could be the max of the array, or it could be how many elements you actually have in an array of 100. You only have 7, something of that nature. And then you increment x. And then there's another loop in there. The y loop is in here. And y is set up to x plus 1 when it starts. So it's always 1 greater. You're going to repeat this loop over and over again until it's done. And then it's going to increment x, and it's going to do the loop again. In any event, y gets the same treatment as the x value. It goes through, it gets bumped up by 1, it increases, and then you're always comparing. You're comparing the str guys, or the element in your y array, with the one in the x array, the 2 values that are being pointed here. And using the string compare value, if y is less than x, you know you have a swap. You know you have the y pointer is less than the guy in x, and you want to swap them out. In other words, if it's less than 0, the string compare works very well for this purpose. If this is true, string compare guys y, guys 7 is less than 0, then we do the swap. Str hold gets the value in guys x gets the value in guys y, and guys y gets the value in the hold. So it swaps them out. And then it goes through y and completes the process going through over and over again until it's done, and it bumps x up again. And this keeps on repeating until x has finally reached the bottom of the array. This is that particular array right here. And you see our x values here. Here's where max is. You're gonna try to find out what the maximum value is. In this case, the array is 20 long, 0 through 19, but we don't have it filled. So we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 values in here, 0 through 6. So max would be 7. And then we can have our little holding area here. We can set up X and we can set up Y. We look at bugs, we compare Donald and bugs. And Donald is not less than bugs, so Y would continue to repeat through this thing until it found something lower than bugs. And there's nothing there. So X would get incremented, and then Y would start at volume 2, and we'd be looking at Tweety and Donald, Elmer and Donald. Daisy and Donald. Daisy would actually be lower than Donald and would swap it out. We put Donald in here, and we put Daisy up in here, and we bring in Donald down to here and go on down the right. We have a process. You can actually see the video on this thing. Now, if you're going to set up a routine like this, I do this. I have the example we're going to see is done in form load, and basically we have an array, and it's called my guys, and it's going to be 20 long, like we just saw. It's going to have number of records equal to 0. Well, we don't know how many there are, so we're going to fill the array with my guys, and then take a reference and get that. We're going to fill that array and then get that number so we know how many records there are actually there. That's going to actually get max for us. It's going to get that piece in here. It's going to put the guys into the array right here. Next, we're going to have we're going to list before sort. So we want to put all of the records in the array in the order they're actually there. So you can see that the out of order value we've got here. Then we're going to call the sort array, which is that routine we just saw a little while ago. This one, this routine right here. We're going to call this array, and it's going to do the process, and it's going to sort all the elements in the array until they're in alphabetical order. Then we're going to list it after the sort. So we're going to take my guys, which is now in alphabetical order, and list that out. And that's it. That's all that's going to be done. And by doing it in form load, or any button actually, where you can use call methods to do this thing, kind of documents what we're going to be doing here. We're setting up an array. We're getting a counter. We're going to fill the array. We're going to list before the sort. We're going to sort it, and we're going to list it after the sort. So it's virtually self-documented, although I do have the comments sitting on the side here. So let's try this process. I've got a form set up here with basically some labels and before sort and after sort. This is the list box. It's going to show us the contents of the array before and after. And here's the exit button here. I don't believe I have any code in this thing right now. We'll double check on this. And there's nothing there. So we're going to go ahead and go back to this thing. We're going to get rid of, we don't need our toolbox. We've got that set up. We do have the contents already set up here. So we've got the list before X. We've got this thing that's called button exit, and we have a form load routine we're going to actually doing this thing in. So we're going to go to the exit button really quickly. So I'm going to actually have to get rid of the toolbox and then double click on the exit button to make this all happen. So the first thing we're going to do is basically say / close form, close app, whatever you want. And that takes care of that. Now we can go over to our form here, and we want to do everything from form load. So you saw that slide a little while ago that showed all the elements we want to do. So we're going to go ahead and double click on form load here on the form to bring up form load, and there it is. And the first thing we want to do is we want to set up that array. So we're going to set up a string array called str my guys. We're not going to call in anything from a file this time. We're going to actually code it right into our code, just to simplify matters and not have to go out to a file to actually do this kind of thing. And it's going to be a new string. We're going to make it 20 long. Why 20? Now it's a good number. And this will be establish array. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up an integer called int number of records, and we're going to make it equal to 0 because we're going to use it. We're going to be passing this thing by reference, and we will number of actual records in the array. This is going to tell us how many we actually had in there, even though it's an array of 20. We won't have 20 elements in there. And the first thing we'll do is we want to do a call to fill the array. So fill array str. We'll pass it str my guys, and we'll pass it by reference in number of records. And this will call routine to fill array. Now let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and call that. We're going to create that thing. So we're going to say private void fill array. We're going to look for a string array that we're going to call just string guys, just to give it a different name. And we're going to, by reference, we're going to get the int count. So we're going to get that little variable. And we're going to set up our braces. And there's our routine. What's our guy going to do? str guys. First element is going to be equal to bugs. Second guy, which is array 1, is going to be equal to Donald. Third one is going to be equal to Tweety. str guys 3 is going to be equal to Elmer. str guys 4 is going to be equal to Daisy. And str guys 5 is going to be equal to Daffy. And finally, str guys 6 is going to be equal to Sylvester. Let's give it a quote here. And we're going to finally say our int count is equal to 7. Now, if we were doing this in by reading a file, we'd be counting the records to get that number 7, and then we'd be reading the other elements here. We're just going to be putting them in, hand coding them into the routine right now. Not something you normally want to do, but this takes the all the code for the file loading out of the picture completely. That's our fill array thing. So we're going to go ahead and file save on this right now, and we'll run it. And we have no errors. We also have nothing showing it because it's not doing anything. It simply loaded the file into the array. We don't see the array index. So our exit button works, so we know that much. So now we go back to our form load and put in our next element what we want to do here. And what we want to do is we want to list before sort. And we're going to pass it string my guys. And we're going to pass it int number of records. We don't need to pass it by reference now because we just want to read it and see what it is. I think we got it. All right, we got it. Okay. List the unsorted array. And let's go ahead and do that. So right here, we'll go ahead and private void list before sort. And we're going to have a string array coming in there called str guys, and we're going to get a int called int count and set up our braces, and there we go. Our list before sort is nothing more than a loop. So we're going to say for I equals 0, I is less than int count, I plus plus, and put our braces in. And all we're doing here is we're going to say lbx before sort dot items dot add str my guys, and that's it. That's all we really need here. We'll do a file save, we'll run it, and the program lists the contents of the array that we had in there in the order in which we entered them. So we have no difference there. Hit exit on this thing, go back to our form load. Now we're going to do a sort. So what we're going to do here is we're going to just simply say sort array. That's going to be our method we're going to call. We're going to pass the string my guys, and we're going to pass it int number of records. And this will sort the array. And let's go ahead and do that sort. And this is that whole bubble sort we saw before, that routine that was actually doing that. So we'll say private void sort array, and we're going to grab it a string called guys, my guys. No, just a string called string guys, str guys, and we're going to give it the int count. Bring that in that integer that we actually passed to it, and we'll set up our braces. We got an error up here, str my guys. Why? Oh, because we don't have the array set in here. That will do it for us. Okay. Little things. We're not going to go ahead and do that sort. And we do that. The first thing we do is we set up a string called str hold. This is going to hold any values that we swap out. So this is a holding area for swap value. When it finds one that's lower than the other, it needs to move that that out and make but save it so we can move it to the other position. So that's there. The next thing we want to do is we want to have our loop in here, our x loop. So we're going to say for x is equal to 0, and then, well, whoa, what happened here? X is equal to 0, and I've got to say int x is equal to 0. Much more happier that way. X is less than int count, so we're fine here. It understands that much, and we're going to do an x plus plus. So that's gonna allow our x value to increase. And we'll set up a set of brackets on here, or braces I should say, to put it. Now we're going to put in our inner loop, our y loop. So we say for int y is equal to 0. Y is less than int count. It too doesn't want to go beyond the bounds of and y plus plus. So we can set that up and then give it its braces. So this is the inner loop moving. So we got our x value running on top. It's sitting at the first element, and the y loop is going to go through the entire array at that point in time. Then once it's done, x will be increased to the next element, and y will go through the rest of the array, and so on down the line. And what's going to happen here? We're simply going to have an if statement here. We're going to say if, and we're going to use a string compare, and we're going to compare str guys x, y rather, what y is looking at, against str guys x. See if that's less than 0. And do our comparison. We don't need the rest of this stuff in here. I think we're going to be fine here. I think we're okay. I can put it in my braces. Let's double check this. Compare str string my guys with a comma. Oh, we got a brace in here. That's what's the problem here. Bang. There we go. It looks correct now. Let's get this brace down below. I like to have my braces here. I think we may be screwed up here a little bit. Well, let's see. We'll check this out in a second. This is here. This is here. I don't think we need these two. That should put us in good shape. We might get an error because we screwed up here, but we're going to check on this. So now we can put this in now. Okay, let's put the braces in now, and there it goes. Now now it's properly set up. So what we do is we take str hold and we make it equal to my guys. So this is a perfectly valid statement. Now we're going to say str guys x is going to be equal to str hold. No, str guys y. And finally, str guys y is going to be equal to str hold. That's our swap. This will reverse those two in order and let it go. That's all we need to do. At that point, this is done. I think I've got all my statements. So this is going to be right here. It's our if. We don't have an else here because we're just going to only do this if it's less than. Otherwise, you just bounce through this thing. We don't need this line right here. We have a private void list before. So that's because we have an error here probably. Okay, bang, 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 bang. I'm looking. This is backwards. There, that took care of it. Easy to miss that kind of stuff when we get screwed up on this thing. So be careful of your braces when you go through this thing. Looks like it's fine now. Let's go ahead and do a file save. Do a run. And the program runs. It sorts them, but we don't see them yet. So we're going to have to write this piece where we're going to see them after the sort. So we'll do that next. So we close off. And we go back to our form load. And we do list after sort. And pass it str my guys and int number of records, and we're going to say list the sorted array, and so we'll create that routine right here, and this will be a private void list after sort, which will be a string array called str guys, and it'll get the int count, int count, and a set of braces, and that gets rid of any errors we have. What's this going to look like? Well, it's going to look like just like this one down here. We could do it like this. Just do a copy paste, slap it in here and change some names, and this will be list after sort. LBX after sort is the array we want, and everything else is fine. I think we're good. I think we're good here. Let's do a file save and do a run. Oops, we got a problem. Bugs. That's something wrong there. Okay, let's see what we're doing here. We'll need to jump into this thing and see what's happening here. Okay, let's go ahead and look at this. List before sort, list after sort. Let me double check this. int is 0, int is int count minus 1, or that's not int count, and x plus plus. And we do our y, 0, int count, and y plus plus. So that's correct here. If I compare y is less than 0, we take str hold and put, here it is. Str hold is going to be equal to guys x. And then str x is going to be equal to guys y, and str guys y is going to be equal to str hold. So that's good. So hold is becoming as whatever as an str x, which is wrong. We're always putting the top one in there. This should be enough to fix it. Save all. Start. Yeah, there. Whoops, this is backwards now. That's interesting. Why did it sort it in reverse order? str guys y compared to str guys x. X is less than x count. Let's see, wait a minute. Where's my sort? X plus plus. Okay, y is 0. Oh, here it is. Y is not equal to 0 here. Y should be equal to x plus 1. It's always looking at the first one here. Okay, this should be x plus 1. Y is always going to be 1 greater than x when it starts out. So if x is 1, 2, 3, say x is a 0, this is going to be a 1. If x is a 1, this is going to be a 2. If x is a 3, this is going to be a 4. So it's always starting a loop from that point on and going forward at that point in time. So let's equal that way. Then we look at if it's greater than the count. And that should fix the problem. I think we've got a bunch of problems that is a loop here is what I did. So let's do another save on this and see if we can't find it. And do a start. And that took care of the problem. It did. B, C, D, E, S, T. Okay, so this is working just fine now. So you can see that we got our bugs, we got Daffy, Daisy, Donald, Elmer, Sylvester, and Tweety. So it did sort the element. But it shows you how easy it is to make a mistake. You need to actually go through this thing. Now we could actually go through this. That one way to do that is to actually look at that process. And one way to do that is to actually do a debug and run our program. We did run our program right now. We could go ahead and go ahead and take X and do a watch on it, and take Y and do a watch on it, and then look at whatever's in str hold and go through the process, see what's actually happening. We can compare what the values are in the array as we step through this thing. So if we go through this and do a F11 on here, it's stepping through, it's getting our count and jumping through the array. Right now we've got nothing in the string hold, but we do have our X is setting at 0, or Y is setting at 1, and now we're doing our compare. It look at these two and did not find anything. We can look at the elements here in str guys and see that it's looking at 0 is Bugs and 1 is Donald. So it did not. Bugs is certainly less than Donald, but Donald's not less than Bugs. So it goes ahead and continues on and stripes through there. So it goes through the process. 3 for Y, 4 for Y. There's nothing, I think, on the first pass with Y. Then we finally increment X. Then we go through 2, 3, 4, 5. And we find Donald. So if we pop Donald in there, and we did find an array difference. So we're going to move Donald out. So what are we doing here? If we look at our array, we found we actually moved Daisy up into 1, and our hold is Donald right now. So as we step through that, we're going to bring Donald into that area, and he's going to be fine. And we increment our Y. Now Daisy's in there, so it's starting to sort things. So it's looking like it's going good here. So we can go ahead and continue. And our end result then is that they're in sorted order. So when you do this kind of stuff, it's important to have your debug ready in case you have a problem, because it's straightforward on what you're actually doing in the code. The flowchart's telling you it's right. The code looks like it's right. But if it's not right, if something coming out wrong, it could be a problem. In my case, typing errors and logic errors where I missed the X plus 1 on this piece here. So we need to go with that. Once you do it though, you got your sort done and it's working just great. You find that by having the skill to sort records opens the door to many applications. One of those would be searching through thousands of records in microseconds to find a match. We'll attack this process in the next video. More on that next time. For now, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to use the website for easy access to all my videos. And if you get a chance, please subscribe. That way, you'll be notified when something new is available. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.